Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Liberty Report with Adam Mad Maxwell from the Liberty Rising Group and obviously Professor Red Pill. And we're joined here with Terrence Popp from Redonkulous.com. So basically, what's happening in Iran currently today is another conflict that's flared up. It's potentially going to be a global flashpoint between escalating strikes, regional alliances shifting in real time, and major powers calculating their next move. This conflict is obviously going to reshape energy markets, global security, and the balance of power to come. The Strait of Hormuz, proxy network, cyber warfare, rather, and the question everyone's asking: does this stay regional or does it go global? Today, we're breaking down what actually happened or what is happening in real time because this is a current escalating situation. What the media isn't telling you, and what this means for the United States, Israel, and the broader geopolitical chessboard. If you want deeper analysis and off-record discussions, join the Telegram group. Links in the description, and join the T Club. Rumble 3 gets you $3 off your first month's membership. And I do master classes, deep dives. You can get access to my book, Unleash Your Inner Signal Male Leadership Guide. And also visit Redonkulous.com to get more info and information, as well as other types of analysis from Terrence Popp. So I'm going to bid it to you, Mad Max, and then we'll go ahead and start the discussion, the panel.
Thank you very much, Professor. Today's the 4th of March, 2026, and this is day 5, I believe, of the latest iteration of this war, which has been going on since October 7th, 2023, which one can argue this accumulation of tension also includes globally the invasion of Ukraine 24th of February 2022. So one could argue we're already in a kind of world war, a World War III, or perhaps the prelude to it with conflicts there and all over. I mean, there's over a dozen conflicts going on in the world. We've got right now, in fact, Pakistan and Afghanistan flaring up. Before last year, we had India, Pakistan, always problems in Kashmir, problems with Iran, Baluchistan, Kurdistan, Syria, all over the world, but focused especially on this region. The stakes of this region are so not only polarizing, galvanizing, and, as you say, a flashpoint. I think the potential for serious fatal outcomes, not just isolated to the region, but that do affect the entire world, is even higher here than in Ukraine, between Ukraine and NATO and Russia. This is between the Jewish state of Israel and the global American empire against the rogue state, Iran. Rogue, of course, because they are the primary leader in the resistance against Zog, against America and Israel. And that's the latest iteration, what we're seeing today.
Could you please define fatal results?
There is, with Russia, Ukraine, the stakes are enormous, right? At the end of Biden's term, the U.S. Senate was briefed in private. They said the probability of nuclear war is over 50%. But things calmed down. Saner heads prevailed. They pulled back from their policies of deep strikes, which we saw the other day. Ukraine deep striking Russian strategic industrial sites deep in the Urals, where they produce their nuclear strategic missiles. The stakes here are massive. However, when it comes to when it comes to Iran and Israel, Iran possesses the conventional capacity to, I believe, wipe Israel off the map. But we haven't seen them do that yet, and that's what we'll certainly get into.
All right, so you're talking about Iran?
This is Iran, yes, and
the
Israel.
ability to wipe out Israel.
I believe so. This is what I've been led to believe.
Okay. No, I'm
And
not saying that's impossible. I'm just trying to.
as well, of course, the one of the foundational narratives about this conflict is nuclear Iran. Now, Iran does possess the nuclear enriched capacity to quickly produce a bomb. I'm led to believe they could do it within days, or at the very least a week or a few weeks, should that decision be made. And we've just taken out the key leader in Iran who said, "We're not making a bomb. I have no desire to make a bomb under my leadership. In fact, I'm issuing a religious decree, a fatwa, no nuclear bombs." He's dead. Iran is, I think they've elected a new leader, and maybe he was just dead or back in. And my understanding is the past year, the Assembly of Experts, who are kind of they're elected by the people and the Ayatollah, but they're kind of Iran is a republic, an Islamic republic, and democracy at that. But these are kind of the technocrats that are supposed to kind of be ruling, be advising how to run Iran. My understanding is the past year, some of the Islamic jurisprudential people there made the argument, perhaps convincingly, although a nuclear weapon is against Islamic Sharia ruling, if Iran is in the position where we're facing an existential threat, a war from the outside by all, maybe it's not illegal for us to produce a nuclear weapon. Again, the head guy who has said we're not doing that for 20 years, he's gone. So there is the potential. I'm not saying it's probable. It's certainly a potential for the production of nuclear weapons. Depends how long this war goes on for. Depends the political will and decision making of the new Iranian government, which we're not sure of. So as well, that's Iran. Israel, of course, they have dozens of nuclear weapons, and if they feel existentially threatened, either Israel or America, yeah. I think that is probable, not just potential.
Word on the street, Iran has somewhere between 18 and 22 nuclear warheads.
So the word on the street that I've heard, allegedly, they've got the bomb heads, they've got the missiles, they've got the nuclear material for, I've heard, between 9 and 11. Depends how much nuclear material they have, we don't know.
Yeah, but the thing, Israel, I believe, has tailor-made their nuclear arsenal to be more tactical than strategic, meaning they're smaller warheads, not like the huge Tsar Bomba stuff. And you also talked about Iran being a republic. Well, they are a republic in name only because, they have a fascist, in my opinion, dictator-in-chief running the place. And they're religious zealots. They had no problem with their discussion and open talk in regards to revelation and, the coming of the end of days. So if there was ever a country on the planet that would use a nuclear warhead in ludicrous fashion, I believe it would have been Iran if they're allowed to get the nuclear warhead. And you said that the guy that they just whacked, what's this, Khomeini, whatever his name is, he said for the past 20 years, no, we're not making a nuke. Why the hell did they have all of those enrichment facilities buried at a depth where only America could get to them with that huge bunker buster they have? So you have to fall back on actions speak louder than words. And what's going on in Iran now, I really am sick and tired of fighting Israel's wars. Right? I'm not a fan of our blood and treasure for the United States going to this. Okay, now, I mean, I have nothing against the Jewish people. I have nothing against Islam. But as an American, I'm sick and tired of paying for it. And if they want to have the luxury or privilege of living in their promised land, they should be able to afford it and defend it themselves. Period. Am I off base here?
I agree. I mean, like I said, the GCC, they themselves, they pay. Like I said, I trained there. You've been in the theater as well in that area for extensive amount of time. We both have actually, and they they pay for the training in the GCC. They build the bases. Like I believe the Qatari base is completely 100% paid for by the government. Bahrain as well. Been to those bases. Very state of the art. Very nice. And I mean, they pay us well. Like trainers that go there, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, or expert trainers to come. And so I mean, they put the money out. You know what I mean? And they have the volunteers. They have the soldiers. I mean, I remember cohort after cohort of soldiers coming through training. So I don't know. I mean, it's debatable how well trained their military is, but yeah, I mean,
well,
it is what it is.
typically, when you are dealing with an Arabic country, their competence for the military comes in rings. The closest ring to the leader, they're going to be extremely confident or really good at their job. Then as you go out in separate rings, it gets less and less. And the example, the primary example, and it's anecdotal, is during the Iraq conflict with the United States. Those men on the front line were the lowest of the low. A lot of them were conscripts with less than 2 weeks worth of training, living in a hole, told to fight to the death, and that each one of them had an average of 180 rounds of ammunition and maybe 2 RPG-7 missiles. And then that's about as incompetent as it gets. So that's very subjective, the competency part. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, we get into education, IQ, and all this in these regions, and that is also a factor. There is environmental. There is also the fact that these are very rich nation states, where we saw that with October 7th, when they were calling IDF people back from the United States, from other countries, and they weren't even picking up the phone. They were like, "I'm not going back there." And they're like, well, you're obligated. And it's the same with like I said, when I was in Saudi, I do remember there were deserters during the Yemenis conflict, and they arrested them. They were one was on the plane with me. They were bringing them back. They're like, yeah, you're going to Yemen, bro.
Well, I mean, I know individuals who actually went to Israel to answer the call. So, there are some that'll say, no, I don't have any allegiance to you, and then there's some that do. It all depends upon the individual. So.
What I thought was interesting was when the Ukraine and Russian conflict started, there's actually a lot of Georgian Israelis that came back here to avoid conscription. I do know that. But a lot of Russians that left because they didn't want to get conscripted to Ukraine, they fled. And they went to Israel, they got their passport, and they were like, oh, yeah, no, you got to fight here now. So they couldn't leave, obviously. But, I mean, you go from one possible conscription to another country thinking that you're not going to deal with having to go serve, and then, like, you get conscripted and they send you in. You know what I mean? Might as well go to South America or something.
Well, the thing with wars of attrition, after the original 120 days of frontline combat, you're basically feeding kindling into the fire. And you're just a number on a board until you're not, and then you're dead. And, in that circumstance, I really can't blame some of these people. The conditions that I've seen on the front line in Ukraine and Russia are absolutely atrocious. And some of the shit they're doing is, in my opinion, tactically unsound. But hey, it's their conflict. You can fight it how they want. So.
I mean, the other thing too with the conflict, we talked about that a lot in the early stages. They had a lot of surplus equipment. I mean, Russia has some advanced equipment, but Ukraine was literally a third-rate military with a bunch of surplus equipment. I know that there were some U.S. soldiers there training experts, but The language barrier. That was the main thing. That's what I think with this conflict, as I was talking about. We talked about the what is it? 3 days before, we said they were probably gonna strike on Saturday. We called that. They did, and I said, what happens with Ukraine, or sorry, with Iran, how they're going to strike back or where they're going to hit, is going to determine if the GCC is going to get involved. And if the GCC gets involved, they speak English. I mean, there's no language barrier. So, and they're trained on American equipment, American tactics. Might be debatable. You're more of an expert in that, Terrence. But I mean, the communication on the field, which is very important, communication and logistics. It's there. I mean, they've got the bases, they got the logistics. The communication is definitely a lot better than what you would see in the current conflict in Ukraine. I mean, they were using cell phones for communication. They don't even have secured ways of communication. Even today, I don't even think they have any means of communication outside of using mobile devices and satellite phones. So, I mean, this war is, like I was saying in previous podcasts that we've done, on previous Liberty Reports and Straight Talk podcasts, this is a futuristic war. This is about as advanced warfare you're going to see in the history of warfare.
Oh, no, hang on.
Go ahead.
There's a parallel what's happening now to what happened during World War One.
Mm-hmm.
World War One, they had air power, they had tanks, and it changed the whole environment of the battlefield.
Yep.
Here we have, and this isn't a world war, I would say it's a world conflict.
Mm-hmm.
You have the same thing, except now you have AI and you have drones and all that other craziness. So again, you're going to see war change in dynamics. Now, you said that Professor Koresh up there. Sorry, man. I'm just messing with you.
Mad Max.
But one of the weapons that you didn't really mention that China can do is dump our bonds. They have a huge amount of our debt, and that would really wreak havoc on our economy. On top of the cyber issues as well. So, in fact, my YouTube channel was hacked in June of last year, and we traced the originating IP back to the Ukraine. So, there you go.
Yeah, speaking on the economic standpoint, that we brought that up, it's a very interesting situation because America's largest trading partner and China's largest trading partner is the United States, and vice versa with China. So it's kind of it's a delicate situation because China is dependent on America in the sense of buying consumer goods, and China is dependent on Saudi Arabia and other oil-rich countries, predominantly with U.S. alliance, to fund their factories to produce these consumer goods for Europe and America. I broke this down. Go ahead.
What you're explaining is called a Mexican standoff.
Exactly.
It's an economic Mexican standoff.
Yeah.
And we also you were talking about tactics and logistics earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the difference between tactics and logistics is amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics.
Correct.
And a lot of the logistic networks that we're seeing develop in Ukraine are put in place by the United States because they are second to none when it comes to feeding frontline troops and using logistics properly. So
that's one of the things that I talked about because most of the followers know that I'm a professor in leadership and business strategy.
So you're a think and meet massager.
Pretty much. So one of the things that I discussed in my lecture, what I discussed with my students is we were talking about the supply chain and logistics, United States with corporate logistics, with I think we used AWS, which is, Amazon, who's probably one of the better logistics privately. But I told them there's one particular organization that's probably one of the top logistics organizations in the world. And they didn't guess it. I was like, it's the United States military. That's basically where all of these other private corporations try. they mold their logistics off of the United States military. And a lot of what I find too also is a lot of these logistic companies, trucking companies, AWS, i.e. Amazon, they hire a lot of ex-military logistics people because they're experts and they're well-trained and they know what they're doing and the communication is sound. And then they hire the tech people, not necessarily from the United States, but a lot of them come from private sector, paramilitary, and they go work for their security, their secure systems and logistic systems. But yeah, it is what it is. Nobody guessed that, but I used them as an example in the lecture.
Okay.
We got some questions here, some comments. Let me see. All right, so DC says, similarly, no country can completely destroy the U.S. or Russia given their massive size, conventional nuclear weapons not considered.
Well, the United States would be very hard because, one, we have so many firearms, and we do have a history of that no fucking way attitude. So, I mean, we have feminized a lot of the men in the West. I refer to them as manginas. They get mad for that. I don't care. And I think one of the reasons that's been allowed to take place over the past 3 decades is to make it more feasible to, overthrow or topple the United States from within. Because once you take away the men who are willing to defend it, then it's easier to crush. But that is just, conspiracy theory that I came up with. Maybe it is happening. Maybe it's a natural progression. But with the amount of propaganda that you see in mainstream media and big tech, I think there's a 30-pound brain behind this that may or may not have billions of dollars. Again, I don't have any concrete evidence. These are just theories.
I think that with America, as well as many other places in the West, perhaps one theory, as you say, is to be able to topple the existing powers and structures. I think it's those powers and structures who are implementing this transformation, this feminization, this divide and conquer. So I think my theory is this is not done in order to weaken up the populace to overthrow the existing power structure, but to greater entrench the capacity of the government, of the state, to influence and control the people. Make it easier to rule over them.
Yeah, but isn't that the same thing? It's just different verbiage. And one is more bloody than the other.
No, I mean, the way that I interpreted what you just said, it sounds like that there's some cabal or whatever. So there's some conspiracy to overthrow the ruling power and install someone new. Whereas the way I see it, no, it's the ruling power setting these conditions to weaken the base. So they can further control, conquer, especially for systematic plunder.
Yes.
And in its place, you can either talk about expanding government influence, or you could look at Peter Thiel, corporatocracy, Elon Musk, and you could say it's kind of a neo-feudal corporatist. They want to increase government and corporation, same thing, power over that, and that's kind of, they want to move progressively towards greater total control, as they have for years. And I've actually got an article on this on my Substack, talking about how, at the beginning of this century, at the beginning of last century, 1900s, the state was as small as it was, and there were a load of organic communal institutions, insurance, charity, no income tax, and steadily and progressively, incrementally, the government has come in, forced itself, crowded out organic market solutions, including those that have been institutions for years, decades, centuries, like church, community, and in its place has installed the state. And the state has expanded, and this is the progressive trend. And this is the telos, the purpose of democracy.
I'm sorry to step on this. What you're explaining is the progression to communism.
Correct, yeah.
Straight up.
Right? You have a community in the church giving social functions. Nope, it's now the state that's come in, socialized that. It's crowded out or forced out more coercively these organic and market institutions.
Correct. Except back in the day, the churches and the religious branch, they were the ones who were big on charity. Now you have government food bank programs in WIC welfare, Section 8, the list goes on here in the United States of, people
And
living off of the government teat.
efficiency, fraud, bureaucracy,
Yes.
taking it from a decentralized and community and organic level, and you've put in an inorganic bureaucratic state, and all the
You're
problems.
absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And I think what would really satisfy both of us is a blending of the two, what I said and then what you said, because that's kind of what's happening with the invasion migration wave that we've had to deal with over the past 15 years.
It's a tale as old as empires. This is what Rome did when it started out as a fledgling hillside state. They would conquer the neighboring territory, pull out the elites and some of the people, put in new people. This is what Assyria did to the northern kingdom of Israel in the 7th century BCE. This is not what the Persians did. But this is, how do you rule over a foreign population or your own population whom you are oppressing so heavily? You go in and you demographically replace, hollow out that base. This was last century we had an imperialism where you could go and you could extract from your foreign colonies. No more foreign colonies. You've got this more sophisticated and progressive financial system. You want to now
Belt and
shift
Road.
forces to finance. You, the elite, the capitalist class, the government, you want more money for yourself. You want to weaken those people to strengthen yourself. How do you do it? A load of things.
Yeah, the very first example of what we're seeing is the fall of the Bronze Age with the invasion of the Sea People. And that didn't just take place in one or two events. It slowly took place over a couple decades because of drought and other craziness. People were leaving that system and overwhelmed the other systems around it and brought them down. And that's it in its simplest form. And then as, because we are just all a bunch of evil, hairless monkeys, some of us are just more melanin challenged than others, we keep repeating the same cycle over and over again. So we had, like, if you talk about the immigration invasion, you can trace it all the way back to some of these billionaires who start up these foundations because they want to help less fortunate people. And then you have more bureaucracy moving in. And look, if you want to have a bunch of serfs, you make them stupid, you make them weak, you take away their hope and purpose, and then you have a ruling thread at the top, and everyone else is just a serf. There's no more middle class, and we're going back to it could wind up being an advanced, complicated version of the feudal system. I mean, it's just the way I see it.
Syndicate or technocracy.
Yeah, same thing. Just different words to explain the same shit.
I find it more insidious, even, especially as we said. It's one thing if you actually have your lord and you are the peasant serf and you live on the manor and he's got his own lord, the king, and it's another thing when you are in the territory you think is your home, but actually it's controlled by shadowy people who have embedded themselves in the government network just with money and power. You're like, and these people hate you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And this is the thing about this shift from from private governance, from monarchies, aristocracy, towards democracy and public governance. They shift away the locus of responsibility and accountability. It's now diffuse. It's now just bureaucracy. Hannah Arendt says this is the kind of the worst governance of all, because who is accountable in a bureaucracy? It's No one.
Yep, you're
Bureaucracy
actually.
is tyrannical form because no one is accountable.
And here's another thing: is they're hiding. They're using the word democracy as camouflage, because true democracy is nothing but absolute chaos, where the masses vote and they must be right, and they just destroy everything around them. That again,
Yeah,
that's played out in history.
yes. However, what's fascinating is this progressive development and the sophistication of it. So going back 2,500 years ago, you got Plato. He says that democracy is and leads to disorder, and out of that rises a tyrant. But this is in a pre-modern civic era and democracy. We are post the managerial revolution. It's no longer democracy to chaos to a tyrant. It's democratic egalitarian ideology creates institutional expansion that creates a managerial oligarchy and a permanent soft despotism, so that the tyrant is no longer one man, it's no longer a Caesar or even a Trump. The tyrant is the administrative class, and that creates a whole life of its own.
So what you're explaining with all of that word salad is democratic socialism.
Which I argue another liberalism is kind of the end goal, but a democratic republicanism is trending towards, as you say, socialism and communism. And
yeah, and listen, communism has already been experimented with during the 1900s. Between 1901 and 1999, I would argue, between all of the wars, the starvation, and all of the inefficiencies of that, it killed 1 billion people plus. That's a lot of dead people, and we still haven't learned our lessons. What kind of morons are we? Oh, that's right. We're evil hairless monkey morons.
One thing that's fascinating is you talk about the Bronze Age collapse. This is actually where Israel came out of. Bronze Age collapse was around 1200 BCE. This was also when the Israelites first emerged out of the hills of Canaan.
I believe it's 1800 to 1200 BCE. It was like a 400 year.
1800 to 12. So I just looked it up, and it said that it's kind of a 50-year period is the Bronze Age collapse, 1200 to 1150 BCE. I didn't know that before just looking up. So the key cluster is around 1200 BCE.
Of a half a century worth of chaos and craziness. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, but the thing is we've seen this before. We've seen empires rise, empires fall. And they collapse roughly around a lot of the same bullshit. Economic or destruction from within, with i.e. the culture and what have you. And we're seeing that happen here in the West. So
yeah, what's fascinating is the Bronze Age collapse and this region. You had Egypt that controlled the Levant at that time. Egypt, with the Bronze Age collapse, pulled out of the Levant. This is where you get this tradition of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt. And then you had the Assyrians eventually come in, and you had the Persians, Assyrians, the Greeks even, all came into this region. It's fascinating that here we are 3,300 years later, and eyes are still on this region of the world.
Yes. I'm getting, to be honest with you, I'm getting getting tired of it. I'm sorry. I mean, I've been to Israel 3 different times. Was it okay? Yes. Was it, in my opinion, some promised land worth feeding, 6,000 people of human lives and misery into the meat grinder for? Hell no. Hell to the no.
Well,
sorry.
I understand why Jews, the Zionists, say yes. They say, without this land, we have existed in a state of permanent, perennial, eternal persecution, leading to deaths of thousands and millions.
Yes,
eventually.
And there's an argument to be had against that as well. I'm not a denier when it comes to the Holocaust. I met hundreds of people in my youth in the neighborhood I grew up in that all had the tattoos. Horrible shit took place. but it didn't just take place to the Jewish community. I would argue more individuals who were just deemed enemies of the state were put into that meat grinder as well. But they've been almost completely forgotten by history.
As well, I mean, 27 million Soviets. It's a mind-blowing number. 10 million Germans. The casualties of World War II, which extended from World War One. The casualties of the first half of the 20th century is mind-blowing. Like, entire villages between Berlin and Kiev wiped off the face of the earth, probably further than Kiev.
And a lot of them were never reclaimed. You can still drive through a lot of those ruins. They're still there.
You can see like a cemetery or a memorial plaque in some of these villages in Belarus and in Ukraine and Russia, and it's just 30 names of the same family name, just everyone wiped out.
Correct.
And this happened with the Jews as well, who there was about 6 million Jews living in that pale of settlements from east of Germany all the way to Russia.
But that number, 6 million, is not supported by the censuses prior to World War II. So that number could be argued. I'm not going to do it here. I'm just saying it's out there.
Sure. There are problems with it. There's a separate discussion. But I think it's about right, maybe 5.5 to 6. I think it's about right. Not worth questioning it right now.
Yes.
Certainly, the point is there is a valid case. It's arguable, but there's a valid case for the validity of Zionism, even if not to you, to the Jewish people and to Zionists. So I understand why they're fighting it, and this is what's important: is what is really going on here in the Middle East. Why are we fighting this war? You said it's I'm tired of fighting this war for Israel. Now, many people will argue that we're not fighting this war for Israel. There are American interests in here. Those American interests are, say, to contain Iran, to support American kind of great power competition. There's systemic things. I say, yeah, these do all exist. However, no, this war is primarily for Israeli interest. If not for Israel, what is the strategic interest of America in this region? Well, yeah, you can talk about energy, you can talk about trade, but primarily that strategic order in the Middle East is derived out of supporting Israel's regional security strategy. So I think Marco Rubio says we fight to win. Well, what does that look like? What are the goals? How do you achieve those goals?
I'll tell you what that looks like. All right, we were not allowed to fight to win during Vietnam. If we would have continued arc-lighting the hell out of the North and destroying their supplies and their leadership, we would have broke their back. And after the war was done, many of the Viet Cong generals said, "Hey, if you kept bombing for another 6 to 12 months, we would have been done." America, in my opinion, has a horrible track record with going for the jugular because it's politically incorrect, it's too cruel, what have you. If you want to win a war, you're just going to have to take the gloves off, and you're just going to have to get medieval. And I hate to be that guy, but if we're going to go to war, that's how we need to fight them. Because I'm sick and tired of going to war, winning all the battles, but losing the war at the end. It's absolute horse shit. I'm sorry for swearing, but
there's a great military saying: tactics win battles, strategy wins wars. My concern here is I don't see the strategic pathway to victory here unless you go not just medieval, but I don't know how you describe it other than dropping the power of the sun repeatedly, 12 times perhaps.
It's called glassing them. GLASS.
So, and of course, if nuclear weapons were to be used by America or Israel against Iran, it would be the worst day in history. It would be the bloodiest day. I think the most death, the most atrocity.
Yeah.
In a humanitarian sense, one could say, well, they deserved it, of course, because they opposed the state of Israel. My concern is, even if you did this, you may win tactically, but I think the fallout, not just the physical nuclear fallout. I'm talking about the diplomatic. I think the entire. This is why I said that the fatal nature of this conflict, if it is deemed, which I am hoping it's not, the only way to actually win the
Well, there's a second method that
kinetic warfare here is to use nukes. I think that will have a universal condemnation against USA and Israel, and I think no matter this kinetic outcome, the systemic fallout will be unbelievable.
Are you familiar with siege warfare?
Sure, yes. Any history of warfare will know siege warfare. You gotta
siege warfare is warfare 101. Now, the second option we can do is not put any troops on the ground, just destroy all of their military capabilities, and just basically surround the country and just choke them till they submit. And then, I mean, that is probably the less vicious option, but it is what it is. Again, that is going to fall into the realm of getting medieval on their ass, because that is about as medieval as you get, siege warfare. And that could be done to an extent. But we'll see what the administration has to offer. I mean, I've been medically retired military. I got 33 years in service. I did all of the crazy nut roll stuff in the Army. Mm-hmm. I have all of the elite berets you can earn in the United States Army. I saw 3 wars come and go when I was almost killed in 2. So, I know a little bit about this.
Yeah, and that's why we brought you on the panel, because you're obviously an expert in military strategy, everything relevant. Like I said, this panel is that I put together. We got an economist, leadership expert, and military expert. So I mean, that's why we're getting actually the highest numbers we've seen so far viewing in. So
let's cover some of these questions in the chat, so they don't get left out.
I just wanted to because you were talking about strategy with what's going on in the theater. What I've heard right now, and like I said, I may bring on if he's available. I have a Azerbaijani minister that he's busy right now. He's in the States right now, but he was going to come on because apparently Azerbaijan has activated their military and they're actively on the border right now of Iran. They do not like Iran. They're one of Israel's strongest allies in the Caucasus and this region. Outside of the GCC, it's kind of is what it is. But the whole fact that Iran struck civilian centers in the GCC, that was the dumbest thing they could have done. If they would have just stuck to hitting U.S. bases, or even infrastructure is debatable, but hitting civilian centers, I mean, no, dude, gloves are off, because the GCC in that regard, they do have a pact similar to the EU, the NATO, that when you strike a GCC country, it's an attack on all. So they are preparing to go in. And I said this what I originally had said months ago with this, if there was a possible Iranian scenario, war scenario, the U.S. doesn't have the personnel. They just don't have it. They don't have the personnel. We
do not.
We have the tech. We have logistics. We have the money. Was kind of debatable. We actually did a short on it. It's on YouTube. We got quite a bit of views. But my analysis is that we don't have the personnel, but we do have the tech. We do have some of the ability in that regard. But if the GCC gets involved, if Azerbaijan gets involved, and Turkey gets involved, if EU gets involved NATO-wise, they struck Cyprus, which is the EU member state. And now the EU is getting together, EU Council, and they're talking about, we're going to war. That means Georgia may get involved too.
Uh-huh.
It's...
The word you're looking for what Iran did by attacking all of their neighbors is a moranathon.
Yeah.
It was just one huge moronic event. Like, I can't even come up with a reason why they even thought that was a good idea. That is so stupid.
Maybe it's chain of command. Maybe somebody didn't, who knows, because you get emotional. And
Yep.
I mean, I don't know the weapon systems. Like I said, I'm not, that's your area. They may be locked into certain areas automatically. I don't know what they're using.
No. All of that stuff is already pre-programmed, pre-planned. Missile XY, this is its target. Drone 414, this is its target. And obviously they got the call to like, hey, launch your ordnance at their targets. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. Iran for months, years, this period between the last 12-day war and now, it's been a ceasefire. Iran have said, no, we're still at war. There's no peace. We're at war with Israel because Israel are still pushing for war. And of course, Israel pushed for war, absolutely. They've been warmongering because the Israeli calculus, and we'll get into this later, is no, we need to fight this war. We want to fight this war. So Iran has been restrained, patient, and diplomatic. Although, as you say, look at their actions. They've maintained certain capabilities which have been unacceptable to the American and Israeli threat calculus, and this is why they went in.
Now, listen, I understand Israel's motivation for this war. I mean, they did have a major incursion into the country of Israel, and was it 1,200 some odd people were taken prisoner, and all of his other individuals massacred. And I'm going to tell you this right now, as former Green Beret, you do that shit to a member of my family, and I'm not going to rest until you're all sucking dirt. I will put you all in the ground, and I will not hesitate, and I'll sleep like a baby. So that could be a lot of motivation behind what's going on in Israel. Now, I understand that motivation. I'm just tired of paying for it.
No, I totally agree.
I think these events, just
very quickly,
these events
go ahead.
Are significant, but they and significant matter, human level, like state level, everything. But they're not. They're ultimately blips on a multi-decade plan.
You're correct, man.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to try to get someone from like intelligence, former intelligence, on here on the panel, but unfortunately, they're not going to get on here talking about this stuff. Yeah. So it's all good. I just talked to them privately what they thought. So let's change the economics here. And this is one particular question that I generally have been covering a lot. And I don't know if you've covered it, Terrence, but USA can't survive without forever wars. USA is bankrupt, and only reason US dollar is a reserve currency is because the American military might. So they regularly have to show their might.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is a valid concern, but right now it's valid because like the only industry that's doing well here in the United States, in my opinion, is the military-industrial complex. 100%. And all of the other jobs and industry we sent over to China because we're a bunch of morons. And under Trump, he's actually taking some pretty significant steps to try to reverse that trend, because that needs to happen. There's a reason why you have all of these cities and states pushing for a $20 minimum wage from Burger King and McDonald's. Is all of the jobs that you used to be able to get to have a living wage have been sent overseas. And our government allowed that to happen, both the Democrats and the Republicans. And it's critical that we actually bring that industry back here. Otherwise, that statement that you just read is absolutely true. Okay.
What are your thoughts, Adam? You're the economist on the panel. And you're muted, by the way. You're good.
There is a great and classical economist called Michael Hudson who talks about this often. His book on the topic is called Super Imperialism. He talks in great depth how the structural hollowing out of America and globalism, that's an important component, one of the critical foundations. But ultimately, yes, this what DC said, it's not just that America is bankrupt because of wars. America has bankrupted itself due to wars. You look at the American debt, 50 whatever trillion, that's all military spending. And what America has done is they've converted their might into this empire, this super empire, based on military excursion, military power, and it's been financialized into the debt, into the spending. And you've got all the incentives, the structural, systematic incentives of the government to have that military-industrial complex. Why it's in, you can look at the political, the lobbying of all that, of the MIC, but it is absolutely a core function of the United States of America, their military might and exploitation of that.
Yeah, and here's another thing that, in my opinion, that has to do with the debt. Is we have a huge social net. We spend a lot of money on that, and it has been, this isn't even opinion. It has been exploited by immigrants to the tune of billions upon billions of dollars, and we really don't know how long that's been going on. And the reason we spend so much money on social programs is those jobs that used to be able to provide a living wage have been sent overseas. So we bring those jobs back, we can probably shrink this huge social net that we have that would take some of the pressure off. And I do agree that the military-industrial complex needs to be reined the fuck in. All right? It's absolutely insane. So that I agree with you on a lot of what you just said.
That was the warning of Eisenhower, right? Beware the military-industrial complex.
Correct.
The way it's going to metastasize, take over our republic, and lead to its ruinous demise and the perverse incentives there. Where, for example, in the Ukraine, in a large part due to the military-industrial complex, a large part is ideological too, and to a minor part, you can argue, deranged strategic calculus. They're like, let's manufacture this war against Russia. We're going to make a lot of money. We're going to harm Russia and Ukrainians who themselves are Russian. We don't really care about them. So we're happy to do it, and we're going to make a fortune. And as you say, you hollow out the economy. You shift the burden of coercive taxation into the military-industrial complex. You make a ton of money. You extract it. You plunder it from the people who you're hollowing out, the middle class. You're making a ton of money. The people are suffering. This is and people are then reliant on social programs, social welfare net. This is the road to socialism. It's just, instead of through overt communism with a communist party who at least give the veneer of caring about the people, this is the way through liberal democracy, which is just meaningless platitudes. Like, oh yeah, this is for equality.
I don't know about you, but if you're going to march me out to my possible death, I do not want it to be over, well, I got to free some people. No. You tell me your country's going to get a shitload of oil, gold, uranium, natural resources, access to an ocean we don't have. Okay, I'm cool with that then. But do not send people to their death for some stupid ideology that really aggravates the absolute shit out of me.
I totally agree. I think Trump has come out and said he's about Venezuela. He's like, hey, we're going in there for oil.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Good.
I'm cool with that. I'm totally cool with that. As leadership, he's being transparent. He's being honest. He's saying, we're going there for oil.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know his strategy for the beginning. I like a year ago, both Adam and I, we talked about this, and I said the first thing Trump's going to do is issue tariffs. Mm-hmm. He's going to go ahead and focus on South America for trade. He may end up sending envoys to Cuba and Venezuela, eventually taking Venezuela, dethroning the government, and he's eventually going to focus on Iran. All have come true. And that's what he said on that. He ran on that platform anyway. But with Iran, the situation now is he says regime change. That's ideology. are we going there for regime change, or are we going there to try to stabilize the Middle East? Now, if you're going to say we're going there to stabilize the Middle East because we need stronger trade ties and we need to protect, our assets and military might, I don't know. This is why we're here. This is what we're debating.
This is my
and
reason
paneling
here.
Yeah.
And none of it has anything to do with what you just said. Iran has funded these proxy militias, terrorism. They've been hooked into all kinds of death and horrible shit that's taken place on that portion of the world and even here in the United States. If Trump was to come out and say, look, we're just bombing the shit out of Iran for some fucking payback, I'd be like, cool. Just don't send any armies there. Do what you got to do. Break their back. And, we'll take it from there. So, all he had to say was, yeah, we're paying them back for a half a century of bullshit. And we actually should have done this in the 80s. And there's all of those administrations before us that, walked around Iran with eggshells and tiptoed and were very cautious. And if they would have just...
They created a nuclear Iran. Yeah.
If they would have just said in the 80s, after the hostage crisis, like, you know what, this is crazy, and just bombed the absolute shit out of them as soon as we got our hostages back, we wouldn't be here today. It'd be a whole different world, in my opinion. But,
there's one thing okay, sorry.
This is what it is. Sorry.
There's one thing I want to add, and before I can, Adam wants to put some information in here. Iran's neighbors don't like them. There are ethnic groups. Iran's a multi-ethnic state, just like Russia, just like the United States. We're a multi-ethnic state. it is what it is. The thing is that there are factions within Iran that do not want the current government in power. And I'm speaking of Kurdish people. There are Armenians. There are Jews there. There are other types of ethnic groups that surround, because Iran is sandwiched in with a bunch of different ethnic regions of Asia. So there is a lot, like what Trump did say is like, hey, we want regime change and rise up. There are a significant amount of factions that do want to topple the government and are active in that. But I don't think that, it's our place to go in there and do that. That's up to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. There's an argument for both sides of this. Am I wrong?
I agree. Yeah.
I just don't, Iran, they had those centrifuges for a reason. They were lying to us. We even gave them billions of dollars. Obama did. Why? I have no idea. It's never been investigated. Nobody can answer. Why give them billions of dollars, which they just turn around and use to provide more weapons to their proxy militias they have around the Middle East? And, that it does need to get... I would like answers to that. I really would. In my opinion, I would argue that pretty much every administration after Carter committed treason against the United States. That's just my opinion. And I would like to see people punished for that accordingly, in public, so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Obama, there's a reason the word abomination exists. Obama and this nation turned it into an abomination. So, I am a comedian, so I'm making fun of a dark subject. That's just the way it is. Got another question from the chat?
I do. Adam, did you want to add something before I get into this next question?
Yeah, just fundamentally cutting through all the bullshit. This is what they want to do. They want to change Iran, the leadership of Iran, change the regime. Not that doesn't mean they want to change it from an Islamic republic into a monarchy or a whatever. What they want to do is change the country, which changes the region, changes the world. That's what they're aiming to get out of this. If you cut Iran from... Is there a regional hegemon in the Middle East? No. There are poles of serious power. You have Israel and America backing it. Then you have Turkey, Iran, kind of Egypt, maybe Egypt, Saudi, whatever. But Turkey, Iran, Israel. What this war is about is they've decapitated the previous Iranian leadership. They want to get rid of the regime, install a new regime, so that and ultimately have Iran no longer competing for the great power over the Middle East. And in doing so, Israel becomes the regional hegemon. This aligns with their security strategy. And this is what the war is ultimately about. That they want to be the regional hegemon, have no threat to their security. Seriously, Iran is what's blocking that. One can say, you say, yeah, Iran is funding the proxies. I think ultimately that the greatest funder of terror in the Middle East is America and Israel. You talked about stability in the Middle East. This is the most destabilizing thing that can occur in this region, obviously. The question is not what's happening on a tactical, it's strategically. If we're zooming out, this has been decades long, zooming out, how does this ultimately change the world, the region, the long-term horizon? That's what this is about. It's not about, is it a republic, a theocracy, a monarchy? It's not about even the oil. It's about how do we shape this entire region. Maybe one can say, so we have long-term stability, perhaps, but that long-term stability is going to be spearheaded by Israel. Some people call this Greater Israel. I don't think that's what Greater Israel really means. Maybe it's kind of imperial. But this is what it's all about, is keeping Iran in its current state as the leader of the resistance against Israel and the United States of America. That's what this is all about. And this is actually, you listen to Marco Rubio, a lot of it is complete nonsense, but some of these things come through. He has, they lie and lie, and, they say, oh, we're defending democracy. No, we are. It's geopolitical containment, humanitarian intervention. Now we want regional stability long term, defending freedom. It's about the credibility of our alliance. Really, you cut through the crap, you can hear some of the reality there. This kind of the gap between public narrative and strategic rationale. That's what it's about. We want to kick Iran out of the resistance to us. And in doing so, reshape the region in our image. And it's especially in the image of the Jewish.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's very valid. So what's the next one, Wild Man?
I got a question for you, Terrence. It says, given Terrence's military background, what does he think about American commanders calling this Iran war a religious war and using religious fanaticism to fight this war? Have you heard about this at all?
I have not heard about this, but it doesn't surprise me. Now, anyone who watches my show knows my opinion on officers. In 33 years, I served alongside thousands of officers, and a large majority were either incompetent or mediocre at best. So I do not have a lot of faith in the officer leadership within our military. I have seen all kinds of horror stories, incompetence, bad decisions. I mean, one of the reasons why I never got promoted to sergeant major is when my unit got deployed in 2004, I had to fall on my sword and report directly to SecDef that our unit was sent directly to Iraq with just basically water paint training. I mean, we got to Iraq, we had 21 medium machine guns. Only, I think, 3 were serviceable. The rest were unserviceable. Vehicles broke down. You don't send an infantry, a paratrooper unit into combat, and the only thing you do to prepare them is have them fire 40 rounds to qualify with their weapon and 120 rounds of blank ammunition twice. And that 120 rounds of blank ammunition is both iterations. And apparently that was good enough to be sent to Iraq. And my men would have died. They literally, they would have died. But I had to do what I had to do, and a lot of people will sit there and look you in the face and go, "I became an officer because I want to be a leader." Okay, you go to OCS, West Point, become a ring knocker. You get in there. They give you your commission. You're going to be a platoon leader or section leader once, maybe twice. You may or may not get a company command, but I can almost guarantee you will rot on some officer's staff for a decade doing PowerPoint bullshit, writing reports. You will not be leading anyone anywhere. Me, as an enlisted guy, once I became, an E5, a sergeant, which I think out of 33 years, I was in the leadership position for 31 of them. I led men in war, battle, all kinds of different situations. And the officers we have, especially when they get to the top, they're professional backstabbers and dick suckers, in my opinion. And so I do not have a lot of faith in any officer calling for it to become some kind of religious craziness. I just don't. But that's just me. There you go.
I just think it's interesting with because I have my locals channel. I have Swen come on. He's one of the members from the Telegram group, one of the main admins, and we get in we call it a schizo hour. We don't put it on YouTube, but basically, I don't know if you knew about our embassy in Israel, in Jerusalem. Apparently, it was dedicated by Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law, and there's an atrium in the embassy with his portrait up on it, and it's called the Kushner Atrium in the U.S. Embassy. And apparently, when they built this embassy, they sourced all the material from within the area, and this is very common with building temples, like in Masonry and Mormonism, where they build their temples from materials coming from the geographical area. It's just eerie. That's why I was like, did they build a third temple? What's going on? That's why that question was kind of interesting, but we don't have to get too far into that, but that was just kind of an interesting anecdote. I don't know.
All right.
Just very quickly, this what you touched on, the professor talks about a lot, which is authentic and inauthentic leadership. And something I talk about a lot is how when you deal with the government, you deal with inorganic hierarchy, bullshit, inauthentic crap, and you end up with with transgender 4-star admirals or 3-star whatever, and people that dress up in dog suits, and these are the ones that get promoted. And this is the case with the military. It's the case with the United Nations. If you want to be hired for the United Nations, be a gay black man, and you'll get promoted. If you're interested in competency and authenticity, professionalism, try your best to stay away from the government and the large bureaucracies. Privately is organic usually. The state, it's a layer of inorganic crap.
The word you're looking for is gaynastics. That's it right there. Ready, and people just do a bunch of useless, stupid bullshit that means nothing but waste time so they can get a paycheck. Okay. That's all I had to say. Gaynastics. That's all I had to say. Totally understand. Next one.
There's another question. Yeah, there's another question here. Hexeth, he's our defense secretary in the United States. So he's asking, is Hexeth a competent secretary of defense given this development?
I would have to lean towards yes. I would, because he did not spend a significant amount of time rotting on a senior officer's staff. And that is where a lot of these officers learn how to stab in the back, kiss ass, cut throats, do all kinds of, nefarious, unethical bull crap. And then once you do that long enough, you get conditioned to it, and that's just how you operate. That's why whenever a general talks to me or a high-ranking officer, unless I know somebody who served with that officer who could vouch and say he's a good dude, I have to, as a betting man, place my wager on incompetence or mediocre at best. All right? But Hegseth, I believe he's a major, did some, combat tours, saw how shit works, from the shitty end of the grunts world. Because once you serve in a war zone as a grunt, you come back with a whole different view of the world and a wisdom that average people will never have. You can't really teach it in a book. I mean, I wrote a book about it. It's on Amazon. We'll tell you what it is at the end. But yeah, I mean, I think Hegseth, of all the sec deaths we had, I would say he has the potential of probably being one of the better ones. I'm not going to say he's going to be the best, because I really don't agree with about 80. I mean, I agree with about 80% of what he does, and I agree with about 80% of what Trump does. I'm not a cult guy. I will put my faith in a certain individual until he proves he's not worthy of it. That hasn't happened as of yet. So there you go.
Yeah, I like Hegseth. Honestly, I like him. I don't know much about him. I recently started studying his leadership capabilities, and I like what I'm reading.
I did a whole comedy lecture aimed directly at him about 6 or 8 months back. The audio is questionable. We had a Murphy moment, but I made it just the same.
Yeah, I like what I'm reading, what I'm researching with him. Now, a lot of the comments that I got within our Telegram, within our community, is that he doesn't seem like the most competent leader. But I think his heart's there, and I think he does have leadership capabilities. Obviously, learned from being a officer in the U.S. military.
Yeah.
I mean,
listen, having your heart in the right place is extremely rare. I mean, I've got some pretty loose commanders who were not that good, but their heart was in the right place. And by the time their command time was done, they got a glowing OER. Because if your heart's in the right place, your men will jump through hoops to meet the mission and meet time hacks and make stuff happen.
It's just consistency. These are the 3 pillars that I teach in leadership. Effective communication, self-awareness, and consistency. You have those 3 pillars, and you'll be successful in anything that you do in life. Doesn't matter if it's in relationships. It doesn't matter if it's in the workplace. If it's just in your life in general,
you're not wrong.
You can get through any type of adversity. You can get through with those 3 pillars. That's what I've learned from all the years that I've studied and leadership positions I've been in. But yeah, I think he's got those pillars. And this is when I do a breakdown of leadership. Those are the three characteristics that I do look for to see how effective they are as a leader. Yeah. Do you want to get to another one, or you got any comments or anything you want to add, Adam?
No, you can keep going. I can go for another 45 minutes.
All right. So we got well, okay. All right. So all those people who wanted regime change in Iran, inside Iran, and I guess I mentioned this previously, are dead, killed by Trump. Trump has said that the same thing, or the Iranian regime during the protest. I disagree. I think there's a lot of like sleeper cells, but I mean, more or less, like, you can't really tell somebody's mind. We don't have the Minority Report right now, or the ability to really know what people are thinking. But I mean, I know there's a lot of opposition in Iran. It's just like any country in the world. There's going to be 30% of the population that's not going to agree with everything in leadership. So, yeah.
The rumor has it that that assessment has already been done, that there is enough dissatisfaction within that country that one of the options on the table is to send in special operations with weapons to give to the opposition and literally lead an armed coup or insurrection.
I'd say they're already ahead of you, but I can't disclose any of that stuff right now. But yeah,
Well, I mean, the rumor is the mission packet has already been issued out to certain groups.
Yeah. It's
Armed
they've been there for a while, and a lot of those individuals have been working in other operations. Some operations that you, Terrence Popp, may have been worked on when you're in the theater. So they're well trained. Some of them are here in Georgia that I've worked with. But I guess we might have lost Mr. Popp. Oh no, his cam's off. It's all right. No worries. Yeah, I mean, so it is what it is. But these people know what they're doing, dude. I mean, that's what I said before. I think the leadership is quite competent, and they would not launch such a large scale operation without having all of their information and intelligence and everything, their strategy put together. Although who knows, might have incompetent people. We don't know. I mean, we won't know until they're fully on into it. But
I don't know
it is what it is.
I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
There's two factors here. One, you said they would not launch unless, which I'll get into in a moment. But first, just addressing DC's claim there. It's not true. The Iranian regime has killed thousands of people, especially some of the leaders of these protests. That's true. The reports are tens of thousands. I don't believe tens of thousands. I don't believe they say 90,000 people have been killed. That's more than Israel killed in Gaza, carpet bombing the places. Yeah, I think they did aim to minimize civilian casualties, but even still, you look at Gaza, you look at Iran, I think there's no way 90,000 people have been killed. This is what they're claiming. I think that number is higher than. My Iranian friend, former IRGC maybe, he says to me, Adam, you are being a schizo retard here. You don't know what's going on in Iran. Literally, everyone around me has lost someone during the protest, and you're just thinking, oh my God, they're pulling the numbers more than Arabs that Israel killed, which I do. He says this is total schizoid crap. Yesterday, my friend's mom got shot in the street. Today I received a message that my years-long online friend who was in captivity since the protest was killed. My friend who owns a small business lost 2 of her workers and 3 of her staff got arrested. Literally inside each neighborhood, people are mourning for their family members. And you think a mass protest that even small villagers came out for was calmed down over 2 weeks of no internet and no phone line connections with just a few thousand deaths or something like that? Iran is 90 million people, and I think 70-80% of the people hate the government to their bones. While they have no water, gas, and electricity for 10 to 16 hours a day, they're fed up enough even to go out in mass. So he claims this 90,000 is the number of death certificates that have been issued and leaked by a worker in the government. He claims the number is more than that. He claims there are multiple videos showing bodies piling up in storage that people need to look for hours to identify their family members. I've seen these videos. I agree that thousands have been killed. I don't agree it's tens of thousands. It could be. I don't know. I'm not an expert on Iran. Just I look at the logistics. I look at history. I look at how many people are killed and what it takes to kill that many people. And my history goes, I look across centuries, a lot of data. I go in and actually study war communism, the first 5-10 years of the Soviet Union, etc. And I look at Iran and I say, to me, it doesn't. I could be wrong, but 100,000 people being killed this year by Iran, their own people, it doesn't seem likely to me. However, the discontent is real. The anger against the government is true. I've got a few Iranian friends. I speak to people. There is a selection bias there. The people I speak to are more likely to be against the regime. I speak to one Iraqi guy who is Shia radical. He says nonsense. But I listen to him, at least for the insight. It's very polarizing in Iran. There is a lot of discontent. The economic sanctions that America has waged against Iran for nearly 50 years now, it's had serious impact. People blame the regime because the regime is responsible because they oppose the state of Israel. They refuse to accept the legitimacy and existence of the state of Israel. As such, Jewish power with the United States of America has mobilized against them forever. It's now gone from systemic to kinetic. They're pushing for it to change this regime, would change those conditions, affect outcomes, and I think lead to a better Iran. We can talk about Persians weren't Islamic. This is an Arabic or an Islamic conquest imposition against them. We can look at the Iranian Revolution, where there were leftists and communists and liberals all wanting to overthrow the Shah because they said this monarchy is bad. We want revolution. And then the Islamists said, "All right, we're taking power." Lots of people hate Islam. Kurds that I speak to, none of them seem to be a fan of Islam. Maybe there are Islamic Kurds. The few that I speak to, they all hate it. There is a lot of, and perhaps mass discontent against Islamic regime. There's also mass support. I don't know enough who's going to come out at the end of the day, but there certainly is enough discontent there that has been formed through this multi-decade-long war against the Islamic revolution that even if, and this is my later point we'll get into, even if the conditions aren't perfect now, these are the best conditions possible to foment this overthrow of the regime, and that overthrow cannot just be missile based. It's never happened. You need something in the ground, like an armed coup, for example.
You are correct. And it just makes it easier if you destroy the military of the person in power. Now, if you had noticed throughout history, Islamic governments they form quickly, they shine quickly, and they literally collapse just as fast. Because when Islam, their main goal is to have the head caliph or whatever they call him. And then they try to pass that along by bloodlines, kind of like a king. But, they're always putting down all kinds of competition. It is a brutal, I would say it's basically a form of communism, except it's got a bunch of religious excuses for its existence.
Theocratic repression.
Yeah.
Islam, submission.
Yeah. The religion of peace that never has peace. That is one of the biggest lies that have been sold to the West in decades.
That is interesting that you brought up, like the Kurdish. See, I know a lot of Kurdish people that are actually refugeed from Iran and other countries. So Kurdistan is what they call it. They're here in the Caucasus because I'm actually the closest to the conflict right now. I'm like literally probably maybe less than 300 kilometers. I mean, we're within range. Like I'm as close as like the GCC just about to Iran. But yeah, there's a lot of people here. I haven't really talked to them much about it, but I do know that they really can care less about the current government or regime, I guess, if you will. But it's interesting that you guys brought up about the communism socialism dynamic with these Islamic ethnic groups, or because the thing is these the GCC and a lot of these Arabic countries, they're very socialist in nature, how their systems are set up. It's part of the Sharia, I guess, so to speak. But the Kurds are actually very avid communist, from what I understood. Talking to them and studying and understanding, they have a lot of communist elements. That's what I understand. Adam, is that accurate? I know you're looking kind of like.
I don't. There's like some Kurds that do some kind of like social democraticism.
Correct. Yeah.
Some of them.
I mean, I would say I wouldn't use the word communist, but maybe Marxist. There's some Marxist ideologies involved.
They are very reactionary because Kurdistan exists across Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran, and it's been suppressed by and so there's a lot of reactionary ideology there, and they have to. And in Syria, in northeast Syria, you had a diversity of it's quite anarchic. The Kurdistan coalition of kind of decentralized different powers all ruling there, and then with the fall of Assad, the rise of al-Jilani, what al-Jilani did since he gained power was consolidate the central military and prepare for an offensive, and he went in and he just took over northeast Syria where the Kurds were. This was the start of this year, and they defeated them very quickly. So the ideology, that the ruling of the Kurds is very much so in reaction to the central regime, the government of the country in which Kurdistan is dispersed across.
All right.
I've got another. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Terrence.
Well, when it comes to the Kurds, we promised them all kinds of shit during the Iraq War, and then we stabbed them in the back.
And Syria as well.
Yeah,
well
why moving forward,
as well,
anyone would ever trust the United States as an ally? They're absolute fools if they do.
Useful idiots. That's the term they used in the Soviet period. Useful idiots.
Yeah, I use that quite a bit too.
They have no friends, only interests, and of course the classic Kissinger: to be a friend of America, to be an enemy of America is deadly, but to be an ally is completely destructive. It's fatal.
Yep.
Let me see. This one might be interesting. We could probably get something into this. I think we covered that. Let's go to this one. So in a democracy, you can't have authentic leadership because everything that is popular works only in the short term. So it's very tough to produce great leaders in countries with universal adult franchises, I believe is the word we're looking at here. I guess that's where he's going with universal adult franchises. I don't know what he means by that, but yeah. So we're talking about authentic leadership and democracy, and how it's yeah. What do you think? I'm the leadership expert, but I mean,
well, authentic leadership is exceedingly rare.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, I got wounded twice because I have two bad habits that made me very unpopular with my chain of command. Is I like to lead from the front and by example.
That's authentic leadership.
One of those things will get you by, but if you have two of them, that you don't learn that in school. You're sent here from the first place to do. That's it. And the leadership and the way they pick leaders in the United States military is a model that worked maybe in the 1800s. But as soon as you invent machine guns and all of the other shit where people can die in a fraction of a second, I don't want to have my company commander or my platoon leader, some guy who's the captain of the debate team in high school who, went to West Point and now he's in charge of you. We need to pick our leaders from the enlisted corps who have a proven track record on the ground and put our resources and money into them. Because these arrogant prickbags at the top who went to West Point and Annapolis, in my opinion, are one or two dimensional thinkers because they're held back by pride and arrogance. You can't have that.
No, I agree with you. It's funny you mentioned that. I actually have two of my best friends that I played football and wrestled with. They both went to Annapolis and
please let them know I think they're douchebags.
Oh, they are douchebags, by the way. I don't talk to them that much anymore, but they were pretty arrogant assholes.
Yes.
Excuse my language.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can't have arrogance in a combat zone because and I write this in my book. What color is bravado? Blood red.
Yeah.
All right.
I do believe in the beginning stages of West Point, and I don't know about Annapolis, but like with West Point, I do believe they bring enlistment to study at the West Point, they would gain officer status or candidate school through the enlistment.
Yeah, but it's not a primary effort. That's like a minor program. It's really hard to get into. You're talking green to gold.
Green to gold, yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard to get into. It is. In fact, I got a 4-year degree, and as soon as I finished my 4-year degree, they're like, "Oh, you're going to put in for your commission?" I'm like, "Fuck no, no! I'm here to lead men and fight wars, not work on PowerPoint craziness bullshit."
Yeah, desk job.
And then have my entire career at the mercy of an officer who's a master at stabbing people in the back. No, thank you.
It's a very political position in leadership.
Yeah. No, thank you. No.
What were you going to say, Adam? Sorry.
I've not served in the military, but I used to be quite the serious mountaineer. As a phrase, the mountain humbles all. You can go in with
Oh,
the
yeah.
biggest ego, but the second the weather turns, or you just the conditions, the exposure, just the difficulty of the the hike. It's a humbling experience. I know that's escalated in warfare. You go in with that ego; it's deadly, and especially with military leadership. I mean, with mountain leadership, you can have deadly consequences, but it's more so you can get some serious injuries in warfare. You can get a lot of people killed.
Yeah, in warfare, there's first place and honorable mention. That's it.
Yeah, as far as leadership, just one thing I want to add, because I'm pretty much an expert on thoughts of authentic leadership. That's what I did my dissertation on. Leaders are not born; they are made, and the only way to become a great leader is through overcoming adversity, and that's why the enlistment corps, that's why they make such great leaders, because they rise to the ranks versus like officers, like you were saying, they don't generally find their stride, so to speak, until they're upper level and they've gone through the gauntlet of backstabbing and bureaucracy. And then by then they're basically a political stooge. They're political. Yeah. Their purpose in the military, if they're in for 10, 20 years at that level, they're looking more for political or some type of economic or consulting firm, because I've worked for numerous amount of officers that run NGOs and private companies and private contracting. So it's and they are douchebags to say the least.
Yeah.
One thing I'm working on is kind of political philosophy. I have a channel called Civilizational Voluntarism on Telegram, CivVol. And so one thing that I'm researching is that liberal democratic republicanism is Marxist in nature. It's full of contradictions. So liberalism dissolves inherited form. That can be corrective when it removes arbitrary privilege that violates truth and righteousness. But once dissolution dissolved legitimate authority itself, power no longer answers to any standard. And the state, as a monopoly of coercion, it doesn't just replace authority, but negates liberty outright. This produces a horrendous regime where you have authority that is abolished, truth becomes irrelevant, rules are optional, power is instead exercised directly by bureaucratic fiat. So it's no longer about competency. It's no longer about authenticity. It's about how well you comply with their rules and procedures, which even they apply selectively. It's about how you meaningfully manage decline. Mm-hmm. And this occurs across all domains, across civilian, economic. You can apply it on a micro, macro level, political. The point is that you have this contradiction where you have, it's not just democracy, it's not just bureaucracy. It is a contradiction in itself. Liberal democratic republicanism. It necessarily just it's about management of decline.
Yep.
I have one more question here that we can get into. And this is the last question, I think. The Middle East has a there we go. The Middle East has a homogen, or how do you pronounce hegemon? Yeah. It's called the American Empire, and Iran is rebelling against American hegemony. Some things, I guess, I'm trying to pronounce this correctly as it's written. If you wanted to take it, Adam.
The same thing is happening in Europe. Russia is fighting the American Empire hegemon.
There you go.
I mean, that's the way you can look at it, I imagine. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the American government is the be-all, end-all example to the world, because it's not. I love my country. I've risked my life for my country, but I am not a fan of the government and how it's currently working. So I agree and disagree with that statement at the same time.
So a hegemon is you don't have peers, you have predominance. I am the influence. Of course, the 20th century began. We had the European pole, and this was primary. World War One destroyed that old world order, which was itself propped up by three. They were all cousins. You got the three empires: the British, the German, Austrian, the Russians. That resulted in a fracture and a split into three ideologies: liberal democracy, National Socialism, and international or Bolshevik communism. That liberal democracy and communism teamed up, allied to defeat National Socialism, and you split into these two, and it was reframed as democratic capitalism, the West, America, and communism or command economy of the East, of Russia. In 91, it seems that we, the West, won. We beat communists. And then you had what's known as the unipolar moment from 91 till about 2021, this 30-year period where America was the world hegemon, the one sole power. And since then, we've seen fractures. We've seen a rising China. We've seen a Russia get up off of its knees under the leadership of Putin to challenge not just America, the American hegemony, but to challenge Europe, NATO, America, the global American empire in Ukraine. And I think they're winning that war. Now we're seeing this containment, this cutting down, not necessarily a decapitation, but you want to bring Iran to its knees under US hegemony. That's what's going on in the Middle East. And what's interesting is America has expended its stockpiles, its military capacity, fighting this doomed war in Ukraine. They're now struggling to keep up in the Middle East because they don't have the anti-air missile systems. They've used it all up in Ukraine. They don't have the advanced ammunition. We've seen that they moved a lot of these out of Bahrain, Qatar, UAE. Saudi moved it to Israel. Iran came in and hit these countries, and they're saying, well, where's our defense? We're defenseless against some of these low-level drones. Shahed drone flies into UAE, blows up $1 billion Raytheon radar installation, and you're saying it's hit civilian centers. So yes, this is true. I don't know that the US has a hegemon. I think there's great powers. You have Turkey, which is very strong. It is the one of the strongest militaries in Europe. Arguably Russia's greater, but Turkey, massive military power. Greater than Ukraine, which itself has a massive military power because of American support and training over the past decade. So you've got Turkey and Persia or Iran and Israel, which is a proxy or a forward colony of the US power. And you've got Egypt. And the history of this region has been Turkey, Persia, Egypt. Now we've got this new pole, this kind of a central tower of Israel, and of course we've got the energy resources of the Gulf region, the Strait of Hormuz. These are all very important, very critical, and contributing to this war because you want control over that region, over the energy, over the political direction here. I don't know that there has been an absolute hegemon in the region. America has maybe been predominant since the Gulf War, certainly, but Iran has risen. It's challenged. It's been a major regional power against that. There's tension between Turkey and Greece and Cyprus. What's going on now? There's you listen to some analysts. There's some interesting concerns there. But this is what it's about ultimately. It's about predominance, about influence, authority, about domination.
I'd argue along the lines that the EU has really risen up in the past 20 years to, I would say try to challenge the United States for number one position. I mean, we just went through a whole COVID-19 craziness. And the EU and the WEF were pushing all of this crazy stuff down to other countries that followed it. And in the years to come, you're going to see the truth in regards to that horrible. I would say it was a rehearsal for something worse coming down the pipe. And as we all know, Europe, they can't go any amount of time without fighting amongst themselves or picking a fight in Europe. because, well, maybe in the 1700s it was. Oh no, that's right. There was all kinds of wars in Europe. Okay, what about the 1800s? No, that was all kinds of war as well. 1900s, World War II, World War One. Yeah, there's no example of Europe actually being a peaceful, stable place, and why the hell we've given them so much power is it's mind-boggling.
Personally, my opinion is that the EU is a vassal to the Americans. You look at the elites, those that run it. A lot of them are transatlantic. A lot of them have American interests and family and properties and things. There is certainly a distinct European character. It tends to be quite snobbish, in my opinion. Not aristocratic, but snobbish. They tend to be. There's a derangement there. Our beautiful European garden, in the words of Borel, and the rest of the world is an unkept jungle. I don't agree with that. I think there is that European character, but I think that you look at Europe, you look at the EU, which is the supreme Soviet. I believe, my opinion, it's all underneath US imperial vassalage, and Washington's really the one that runs these institutions, ultimately.
Yeah. I'm not going to say you're wrong there, but I mean, it's valid. What you have to say is valid. I was going to try to tear you down because you're so young, but you're not an idiot. So that's a compliment. There you go.
I have one question here. I don't know. It's interesting. This is a new subscriber that asked it. Do you think that the Strait of Hormuz will be forcefully opened soon if Iran Navy gets destroyed? And can we expect military convoys protecting the trading vessels?
Yes.
Or have you covered that already? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they're gonna basically annihilate the missiles that Iran has that they've been firing. They've already sunk their navy. Of course, they have a bunch of little speedboats and other petty bullshit. But I would not be surprised if you had a half a dozen, 4 or maybe 6 U.S. destroyers patrolling that section and handling any more future craziness. Because you need to have the Strait of Hormuz open for the oil, because once you close that down, oil prices are going to spike, and it's going to destroy everything.
Not just oil, Terrence. They're dependent on consumer goods coming in too.
Correct.
With the GCC, because it's a heavily being in the GCC for as long as I have. I mean, I've lived in this region most of my adult life. You shut those ports down in like Bahrain, Qatar, Dubai. They have no consumer goods coming in. Most of their food is shipped in. Most of their consumer goods, a lot of the resources and supplies, it has to be shipped or flown in. And there's a no-fly zone over most of the GCC right now outside of Saudi Arabia. And it's difficult. You can't drive stuff in. It's not like United States or like Europe where we can truck stuff in. The only way stuff gets into the GCC is it's shipped in through that route, or you can go probably through the Red Sea as well, through through Egypt to the canal.
It sounds to me like they need to invest in some trains.
We have one train in Saudi. That's it. It goes,
that's ridiculous.
It's in the Eastern Province. It goes from Riyadh to Dammam that's it.
Yeah, so that's an error.
Yeah,
there is. It's actually right. This is one of the major sticking points. What do you call it when like the Strait of Gibraltar, a choke point? One of the major choke points of this war. So far, Iran has not mined the Strait of Hormuz. They have bombed a few ships. We saw last year the Houthi in Yemen blockaded the Red Sea, that choke point, from all American and Israeli ships, and they were able to shut it down. And America went in with a project Safeguard or whatever. Israel tried their best. They couldn't break the Houthi embargo against American and Israeli going through that Suez choke point in the Red Sea. Can we do it against Iran? This is major because it has implications for China and Taiwan as well.
Yes.
Can we destroy all of the Iranian navy? Well, as you say, I've seen at least one. Apparently, an American submarine has sunk an Iranian Navy ship. Great. Have they sunk them all? I have no idea. So maybe we can destroy their navy. I don't know if they have submarines. I'm sure they do. Can we destroy all their missile capabilities? What does it take to prevent and to stop a ship from being able to travel through that strait? Can they launch drones from anywhere in Iran to try and target them? Maybe. I understand that it's actually quite difficult to hit these moving targets with the less sophisticated weaponry. That hypersonics are one thing, but the actual hitting these moving targets that can maneuver, especially if you have a US frigate trying to shoot some of them down, it creates difficulty. But you've got a commercial interest here. Are you going to send your ship carrying your supplies and resources through if there's a serious probability they're going to get shot by Iranian missiles? So there's a question of logistics here. Even if we destroy the Iranian Navy, can you destroy their anti-ship capabilities? And then when we look at China and Taiwan, this is again the logistics. America has some resources in the region. They've got a significant naval projection power. When we go to China and Taiwan, America is the other side of the Pacific. Yeah, we've got Japan and the Philippines and the first island chain. How are you able to, if a conflict breaks out in Taiwan with China, the question becomes the anti-ship capabilities, the embargo, and can they break that embargo? And again,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think there's breaking news right now in Tbilisi. I think we got struck by a rocket in my neighborhood.
Oh, no.
There's like police and there's like debris and shit everywhere. So in Tbilisi.
All right. Fun and games. The fun and games have begun.
The Houthi were able to maintain an embargo against American and Israeli ships in the Red Sea. Can Iran do the same thing? If so, that has serious implications for China, Taiwan, because China has much greater logistics. One of the defining calculus moments of this conflict is the supremacy of offensive capabilities against defense. So this is going to be not just a physical choke point, geographic, but a military choke point. Can we effectively break through an imposed embargo and defend against offensive anti-ship capabilities?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Every time there's a conflict, your enemies are watching and learning. So you are absolutely correct. Now, in regards to Taiwan, the whole key to that is if China decides to take over Taiwan, if enough damage can be inflicted in the opening 12 to 24 hours, we'll basically let you know if China will be successful or not. Now, one of the keys there is you're going to have to get a lot of those countries that live around that body of water the proper amount of anti-ship missiles and the resources needed to, put that defensive net up. Because all they really got to do is you can break the Chinese military right there on the waves if you do it correctly. But then you have the threat that China does have nukes, and it could turn into a big hooty-doo.
Well, they can also embargo that island.
Yeah, they can do that. Correct.
It's much easier for China to siege Taiwan, break them that way. All right, you're under us now.
Yeah, Warfare 101.
Oh.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong. All right, so you want to call the stream now since you're taking rocket attacks here, Wild Man?
No, I realize what's going on now. I'm right near the I think I'm near the Iranian embassy. I think there's demonstrations.
Oh, okay.
I'm in the embassy district, so the U.S. embassy is I don't want to give my location per se, but I'm in the embassy area, so there's some kind of demonstration or something's going on. I don't know, but there's police everywhere.
All right.
Yeah, we'll end it with that. That was it's an interesting situation going on down here, but. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Terrence. Like I said, go to redonkulous.com to support Terrence and Liberty Rising Group. Links in the description. Mad Max's all his link trees in there, and then mine as well. So
yeah, the book The book I mentioned is on Amazon. It's called The Warrior's Way and the Soldier's Soul, written by me. It's a philosophy book, and basically, if you're going through a tough time, that book can help pull you out of the murky depths.
That being said, thanks guys. It was great discussion. I guess it ended with a bang because there's like all kinds of smoke. I don't know if it's a fire or there's protest or rocket or whatever. You never know. I'm like 100 miles or what are we like at least 500-600 miles from the border there. So
all right.
Anyway, all right guys, take care. I'm gonna end it.
Take it easy, man.